Welcome back, guys. So in this video, let's talk about how to loop through an array. Okay. So on the last video, we talked about multidimensional. So let's create another class. Let me just remove all of this. Right. So right click, new class. Let's say we say array loop. Right, and then main, finish. So first of all, right, let's actually create an array first. So let's do string. Hope you guys remember, you have to put that square bracket, right? Square bracket. And let's say we have been working with names. So this time let's go ahead and work with cars or something, we just create a cars. Cars. Yes. Okay. So in here, as you know, now we have to put curly braces, right? And close it out. Inside the curly braces, let's say I say BMW, Mercedes. Oops, don't forget the curly braces. Mercedes. What else? I keep forgetting to put this in there. Mustang. What else? Toyota, Nissan, Tesla, whatever. You can put whatever you want to put in there. It doesn't matter. Now, normally, how we do, right? Normally, if I want to get an element, get like something, whether it's the zero, whether it's a zero value or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever the case is, sometimes you just want to just print out that one specific thing. But what if I want to print out all these names, right? So if I do, let's say, S out, right? And then I do cars, and I put this square brackets, and I put like 0, right? If I was to print this out, it'll show me only Mercedes. I'm sorry, 0 is BMW. Yeah, so it'll show me only BMW. But what if I want to get a list of this whole thing? I can loop through this thing, right? We have the for loop. So I can loop through this thing. And how do I loop through it? And let's say I don't know what the size of this thing is, right? So I can loop through this thing. And how do I do this? Let me just take this thing out. Let's say I do for, and again, you have all this. So I just want to use this right now. So for I equals 0. So it's starting out at the 0 position. I is less than cars dot length. This length is basically saying I want to know the length of this thing, right? Start from 0, know the length. As long as I is less than the length, I plus plus, right? And then I want to do S out, and I just say cars, and then the square bracket, and then I just put I. Now what this is saying, I want to print out everything for the cars right here inside this I. That's the variable. So if I run this, right, as you can see, now it's giving me this whole list. If I want to know just the length of it, right, yeah, if I want to do S out, and I want to do cars dot length, if I want to know what the length of this thing is, right, we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So this starts with the 0, but when it's counting, I'm going to show you guys what this does. When it counts, it gives that 6. Again, the reason it's printing out for every single one of them because it's looping through this thing, right? So let's see. If I want to just print that out, just the length, I can just take that thing out of that for statement. Now it'll just print out that one time. Hopefully you guys saw that. I'm printing out the length, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So even though in counting programming wise it's 5, but we know that if we just talk about human counting, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 6 different ones that exist, right? That's why it gives me 6 over here, and then it just printed out all of them, right? We have this 4. With this for loop, we can just do that. Okay. Hopefully that made sense to you guys. Yeah, I hope that made sense to you guys. Yeah, please go ahead and practice more on this. More you practice, better you're gonna get. Another way that we can do this thing, we can also have for each loop. And how does for each loop works? So let's do I'm gonna say for each loop, right? And I can actually print that out so you guys can see the difference as well. S out, right? And I'm just gonna say for each loop, okay? And let's just do this, S out, and I'll just put a couple of stars in there. Okay. Yeah, that's how I just wanted to just create a space in there in between. So anyways, so for this one, we already have this cars value in there, right? So I don't need to do it again. Now, if I do 4, right? And then I can have there you go. Now I want to do this for each. See this for each, iterate over an array or iterable. So right here, I'm saying string, right? I'm sorry. I'm saying string. Now for this one, let's just say I say let's say I just said X, doesn't really matter. String X, for string X, then I have these cars, right? Now I can just say S out, then I just want to print out that X. Okay, so it's basically gonna do the same thing. So, but let's just print this out and see what it does. See, for each, it is printing out the same thing, right? It is printing out the same thing. The only difference is that we are doing over here. Let me just close this. The only difference is over here. Over here, we could say, I this, then I is less than the length. I is less than the car this length. As long as it's less than that, increase it by 1. Right? For each element, we're basically saying, I don't need to know the length or anything like that, right? I'm just saying for string X, right? How we have int I, is saying string X is string X because that we have a string over here. We're just putting this in another variable, and then we're saying like put these cars in X, right? That's all we are doing. So in here, we're just basically as long as we just put that, we're just basically iterating through this whole thing, and it just prints out all the characters that's there. So basically for each string element X, as in like X is the index, right, for all of them, in cars printed on the value X, right? Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Please practice. More you practice, better you're gonna get on this. This is just 2 different ways of printing it out, right? This is for each loop. This thing is here. Let me just this is for each loop, and this is gonna be for loop. Okay. So let's just run this thing again. Yeah, for loop and then for each loop. I don't need to know the length, but it is there, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, hopefully you guys understood that. Please practice. Please practice in programming. More you practice, better you're gonna get. If you don't practice, well, you're not gonna know it. But yeah, hopefully this was helpful. This is two different ways of running this thing. So you can do a for loop, you can do for each loop. With the for loop, you have to do all this, unless you can do specific things in here, right? It says on this one, if I was to change this to, since there are 6 of them, right? So you have 5 indexes. So if I put 2 for I equals 2, and then, as long as I is less than the length, right? Then print this out. So in this case, if I was to print this, see, it didn't print out this first 2, right? Because I said int I should be starting over there. So you could think of it from that aspect, that's how it differs, right? If I put 2, that means 0, 1. So these 2 will not get printed and print out everything from here. That's the purpose of this for loop. For each loop, it just basically, I'm just saying I want to print out everything. I don't really care. If I want to print out everything for each loop would be the best option. If I want to have some sort of a length or something like that, or if I want to start with a certain index, in that case, I can just use the for loop. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good one.